and the number of teams, Jay, that have not just crawled to the finish line, great records coming down the stretch, positioning themselves for postseason play.
There are so many teams and student athletes out there, Meredith, that have worked so hard. It's shown up at the end of the season when it really matters, when they're crunch time. Thing I always get impressed with at this time of the year are the seniors. A lot of these seniors are done with school. Some of them have had graduation. Some of them have graduation tomorrow, but they're still out there grinding and working hard every day. I think that's testament to those student athletes as well as their coaches.
You know, that was one of the things I spoke with Dr. Baldwin about. Those seniors, on any given day this week, they could be graduating, going to prom, and playing in a postseason game, and what that experience is like for them. So we'll take a look at what Dr. Baldwin had to say about that and more. Take a look at the interview we did with him earlier this week.
Well, Dr. Baldwin, thank you so much for joining me. I know this time of year is both incredibly exciting and a little bit chaotic.
Yes.
But, you know, how does it feel that we're going into another postseason?
It's exciting. It's the postseason that ends the school year, which makes it totally different than the other postseasons. They are all, each and every one of them are unique. And this one is no more different than being unique with, you know, different events for seniors and graduations and weather, but it's an exciting time.
You mentioned the seniors. You know, for a lot of those seniors this week or this past month, they've had senior week, prom, graduation, and now their final games of their career. You know, what do you hope for them as they go through this process?
I hope for them that they enjoy each of the moments. I think back to one of my children in high school that had an award ceremony in the morning, a state tournament game in the afternoon, and a prom in the evening, and then a graduation 2 days later. And you just hope that, and of course the game they lost, but you hope that each one you compartmentalize, you move on to the next one, and you enjoy every moment. And I think that's a life lesson that they get to learn, is that, okay, on to the next thing, be your best and be present in the next event, and there's so many exciting events, they need to take them all in.
Absolutely. And now you're also, with it being the end of the season, you're coming up on another year done as the executive director of the MIAA. What highlights do you have from this year? Any big moments that really stood out to you?
I'm just really proud of all of the people in our membership that work so hard. I think we talked about moving an aircraft carrier and just trying to change a mindset of serving and being there for our members. And little by little, you can almost feel it. We want as much participation from the membership. We've got an amazing staff that works here, and the synergy of them working together, you can almost feel that things are moving a little bit. And just things like this, the relationships and growing and not saying no to much, just saying yes to things and getting kids involved and highlighting the positivity in interscholastic athletics as opposed to the one negativity that takes place.
Now, when you look at especially the spring postseason, you have sports that are growing, boys volleyball, rugby. What's it like for you to see as the state tournament enters another year that you see that growth, you see more teams playing? I know in the western portion of the state we had multiple teams who won boys volleyball championships for the first time ever and are higher up in the rankings than they've ever been. So
it's very important that I know, and many people know, that participation in interscholastic athletics creates a feeling of membership, belonging, and we want to find as many opportunities for kids to grow and be participants. And so while the state tournament is something that gets, you know, the notoriety, it's the participation throughout the year, the sense of belonging, the membership. And so the more sports you can have and the variety is better. The problem with enrollment and declining enrollment is if you start to add more sports, it's not like you have more student athletes. So it really is a competition of which ones succeed and which ones don't. The other one that I think is going to grow in the next couple of years, not pickleball, even though we get hit up with that, and it's a great activity, but girls flag football is something that is I'm sure going to grow immensely. So yeah, the more we can get kids involved in different activities that meet their needs, and you know, the drama and the and debate club and band and so forth, they're better human beings for being a part of all of this.
I know one of my favorites that I've worked to watch for is the Unified Track and Field program. Today on Tuesday they're having their championships this morning, but just seeing the way that program has escalated over the past years has been incredible.
If you're having a down day, just go to a unified event. It puts it all into perspective. You are literally screaming and cheering for every participant. It just puts life into perspective, and all that are involved in those events are just special people, and it makes you feel just so good. And so whenever you might be having a bad day, you just find that the closest unified event, you show up and all is well.
At the Western Mass Championships, one of the coaches put it perfectly. He said it's the sport that every team wins.
Absolutely. Every team wins. Everybody gets a hug at the end, and you're cheering to the finish line. It's not who comes in first, second, or third. You're cheering everyone who finishes. And you know, that's another life lesson, that life is about getting to the finish line. And we put so much of an emphasis on who's first and who's second. Quite often getting to the finish line, and I tell people my whole life, the tortoise always wins, you know. The tortoise and the hare, we really want instant gratification. We want all these positive things to happen right away, but you know, going to an event like that and seeing that anyone who finishes learns about perseverance in life, that's really special.
Now, you've been in the shoes of many of the people involved in this tournament. You've been an athlete, you've been a coach, you've been an administrator. What advice would you have for any of them as they go through these next few weeks?
Oh, it's again, I go back to maybe to the beginning, to just enjoy the moment. And I can say that now in hindsight. It's easier said than done. I can remember as an athlete, it was heartbreaking if you lost your last game, that it was kind of just this feeling of loss, that it would never happen again. And then you learn that life goes on, but you don't know it at the time. As a coach, of course, it's devastating. Oh my God, we're not going to sleep for weeks and months, because what are we going to do until next year? You want to have your next game. So I think the lesson I've learned as I've begun to get all the gray hair and get older is that yes, you want to compete. Yes, you want to take it amazingly serious. That's a huge trait to be that kind of person. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, this too shall pass. And enjoy the moment, be present for the moment, make good decisions during the moment, and it'll be a life lesson that'll go with you the rest of your life.
Sounds great to me. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Looking forward to another wonderful postseason.
I appreciate this relationship, and good luck to all the student athletes in the spring season.
What an important message there on being in the moment, and certainly not an easy one.
No, you know, I like the fact that Bob's always looking for life lessons. He finds them everywhere, and he applies them to the real world.
And he talks about the student athletes, how important everything is, and we've all been there. I may have been on the bench, but I was there. And it's stuff that ends up, after you get through that week or so afterwards, it's the most exciting thing you've done. It's, you look back, those are the people you talk to, you stay in touch with. So you just hope every student athlete enjoys it.
Speaking of those student athletes and the memories that they'll hopefully be developing, let's take a look at baseball now. You mentioned earlier, Pete, so many teams making the tournament. I think there's close to 150 within those baseball brackets. Actually, I think it's way more than that. Yeah. A remarkable number. We'll now take a look at one of those teams that is bound to make a pretty big impact.
Yep, we're going to be talking to, I believe, the Oakmont baseball coach.
Do we have players from Oakmont on the line?
Any Oakmont? Well, Oakmont is coming off of winning a state title. They're the #1 seed again in Division III, and they've had a tremendous season. I believe their final record was 17-3. They've dominated, they've played well, and they have a lot to work for. It's very difficult. You see it occasionally, teams coming back, defending their titles successfully, and that's an opportunity that Oakmont has going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, they won their first state title last year in Division III, getting a chance to go for it again. It'll certainly be an interesting ride for them. Let's just check one more time. Do we have anyone from Oakmont on the line?
Yeah, we got the 4 senior captains.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Guys, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself, and thank you for joining us.
I'm Ben Forbes. I'm a senior captain.
I'm Ty Curtis. I'm a senior captain.
I'm Sam Curtis. I'm a senior captain.
I'm Caleb Allen, and I'm a senior captain too.
Was that two Curtises that I heard?
Yes.
Okay. Any relation? Or did you just
No relation.
no relation? Just met each other today?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. What are you guys looking forward to coming off a state title, trying to defend your state title going forward? What are some of the things you can take from last year and apply them to this year?
Yeah, I mean, last year, obviously, a great run from us. We were the 4 seed. Just think the experience from us seniors and some of our juniors. We have a lot of returners, and just through this year, we've had better competition, and I think we're ready for the competition that's going to come in the tournament.
And going forward, what positions do you guys play?
I'm a third baseman, first baseman, and a pitcher.
I play center field.
I'm a middle infielder.
I'm a pitcher shortstop.
Awesome. Anything, you have any special underclassmen that have helped you through this season that have kind of surprised you? Anything like that?
Yeah, our 2-hole hitter, John Lasordo, he's not really an underclassman. He's a junior this year, but last year he was our 9-hole hitter, and he was great last year too, but this year he's stepped it up a lot. I think what's he hitting? I think he's almost
500.
hitting 500 right now, if not 500. And then Levi Hessel, another junior this year, pitched a little bit last year, but not a lot because he got hurt during one of our scrimmages before the season. Came back during the state tournament, got put in the lineup kind of fast, wasn't overwhelmed at all. And this year he's hitting 5th, and he's been or 6th, and he's been another great hitter for us that we expect him to be, but he's kind of stepped it up, especially lately. So we're looking forward to his bat and arm in the state tournament.
That's great. Who do you open up against? Who's your first opponent going forward?
We play the winner of Arlington Catholic and Nipmuc.
Okay. And that will be a home game, I'm assuming, for you guys because you're the number 1 seed, right?
Yes.
Okay. One other question. I think this is the most important question. The sunglasses. They're a tremendous fashion statement that you all have. Is it really sunny inside the school today? That's my question. Because out here in Franklin, it's been pouring all day.
Yeah, it's a little cloudy out here too, but it just looks nice on the head.
Pete and Meredith, I think I need to get a pair of sunglasses like the gentleman on the end in the green shirt. I think I could pull that off.
Sure you
Since I
can.
have no hair left. So.
Sure you can,
Hey
Jay.
guys, best of luck. Enjoy this time of year. You only get it, well, you guys may get it twice. You had it last year winning the state title. But just enjoy every memory and take it with you. Good luck to you and your team, and we thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Thank you. It was
Thanks for
awesome being
having us.
here.
Thank you.
Well, now we'll take a look at the broader outlook for the baseball season. We should have Mike Puzingera from the Boston Globe on the line. Mike, how's it going?
Hey, Meredith, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thanks so much for joining us again. We loved all of your insights during the winter season, and we're excited to have you back here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So looking at the broad scope of the baseball season, what stood out to you in your coverage?
Oh, man, it's just been such a fun season. I mean, we have so much talent across the state in baseball, ranging from pitchers to hitters and, base stealers, too. It's been a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to some, tightly contested playoff games, and there's really nothing better than playoff baseball. So it's going to be a really fun time these next few weeks.
There really isn't, and I can see. I worked in the Cape Cod Baseball League for a while. I can see the picture behind you. I know that's one of those Cape League photos, so I know you're on the same page with me about baseball. Any teams in particular that have stood out to you so far this spring, and who you expect to have a deep run in the postseason?
Oh, man. I mean, there's so many just incredible teams. I mean, if we look over at Division I, we start off with, BC High, St. John's, and Shrewsbury. Those teams have been, absolutely incredible. Xaverian right behind them. Really cool to have the top 3 teams in Division I in the power rankings all coming from the same conference. It shows, the depth in the Catholic Conference this year. And, those 3 teams are going to be looking to make a deep run. Leominster at 5 is having another great season. They're going to be really fun to watch. Got the reigning 2-time champs Taunton right behind them in 6. So there's a lot of great teams in Division 1, and it's going to be really fun to watch that tournament unfold. Looking over in Division 2, Walpole and Plymouth North at the top are having exceptional seasons. They're going to be really fun to watch. Milton is the 5th seed, 2-time reigning state champions. We'll see how they fare in the tournament. And you've got teams like Hopkinton and Westwood having great years in the Tri-Valley League in the top 10 as well. So it's a really fun setup in Division 2. D3, we talked to the Oakmont guys, reigning champions. They're having another fantastic season. And, they're going to look to repeat over in Division 3. A number of great teams over there as well. St. Mary's in 2, Hanover in 3. Those are, 2 teams that are having strong seasons. Division 4, Linfield up at the top is playing some great baseball right now. Seekonk, the 4th seed, another team that's a reigning state champion that, again, is in a really good position to make another tournament run. Uxbridge and Clinton, up there in the top 4 as well. They're having some strong seasons. Final division, Division 5, Georgetown was the last unbeaten team in the state. They only have 1 loss. That only happened a few weeks ago. So they had a great start to the year, and they've continued it. English High School out of the city in the 3 seed. They were, a Division 4 semifinalist last year. Now they're in Division 5, and that team is just as good as it was a year ago. So they're going to be fun to watch. And then you got teams like Hopedale and Carver and Pioneer Valley all having good seasons. So that was a lot of teams all in a row right there, but it's going to be fun to watch across all 5 divisions.
Absolutely. Now, Mike, we've heard from the MIAA several times that for the most part, these seeds have held true. Those top 4 teams are usually the ones who are competing for that title. But are there any teams amongst those divisions that maybe are a little bit lower ranked that you think could go far in the tournament, maybe upset a few people?
Yeah, there's a couple of teams that I think, maybe got a little underseeded. I think, first of all, the fun thing about baseball is that all you really need is, your pitcher to be on or one of your hitters to have a huge game, and anyone can really beat any team. So it's certainly fun in that time of year. We look over in Division 2. I think Mansfield as a 22 seed is, way lower than I thought they were going to be. They started the year a little slow, but they've been really good, from around, game 5 on. And they're 15-7, playing the Hockomock League with teams like Taunton and Franklin, who, are always contending in Division 1. So I think they could really make some noise as a lower seeded team. And then when we look over in Division 4, Hamilton Wenham is seeded number 15. Mm-hmm. And they're a really interesting case because one of their best players, John Gamelli, who is, a junior, it's a fantastic hitter, really one of the best hitters in the state. He was injured for a lot of the season. And now that he's back, he's made a huge impact in their lineup since returning. And so I think that they're a little underseeded because of that and the impact that he can have along with the other talented players on that roster. I think they could really, make some noise in that Division 4 bracket. There's a couple other teams too, but, those are the 2 that really stood out to me.
Definitely. Now, going back to what you said earlier, why don't you give me 1 pitcher, 1 hitter, and 1 base stealer that I should be keeping my eye on during the postseason?
All right.
I'll let you say more than 1 if you want to.
You can't include Pete.
So many.
You can't include Pete and I.
Hey, you guys would be number 1 and 2 right there.
Have you seen Pete steal a base? I think it would be impressive.
I have seen Pete do that. So.
Hey, you can get a great jump over there. Yeah. There's so many amazing players. One of the pitchers that I think is going to be really good, Angel Baez out of Leominster. Mm-hmm. He's fantastic. And, that's a team that could really, make some noise as a 5th seed in Division 1. I mentioned them a moment ago. They're really good. Also, DC Brown of Plymouth North as another pitcher. He's fantastic. He threw a couple no-hitters last year. He's having another amazing season. Plymouth North as a 2 seed. He's a guy who could be, really exceptional in the tournament this year. Looking over at hitters, I mentioned Gamelli, who I think is going to, have a really big impact. If we look in Division 5 with English, David Castillo is, I think, one of the better hitters in the state. And, he might get overlooked a bit because he's in Division 5, but he's a really, really talented hitter. He not only puts the ball in play, but can really drive it. And he's a good pitcher as well, too. So he's a guy I'm looking at. Also heading back over into Division 1, guys, there are just so many amazing players. I'm struggling to name one or two, but there's just some fantastic players. Some sneaky base stealers. The guy who I really like, let me just pull up their seed in Division 4 at St. John Paul II, down on the Cape, Logan Orr. Every time I see their stats pop up, he's got 2 or 3 steals each game. So that's a guy that I think, and a team really, St. John Paul is a 9 seed in Division 4. I think they could really cause some damage.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mike. That's Mike Puzingara from the Boston Globe. We really appreciate your insight, and good luck with all the coverage this season.
Thank you so much, and thank you guys for having me.
Of course. Now we'll turn it over to high school sports historian Mike Richard, who's going to give us a little bit more information about a little bit of the past, along with the present, of what we can expect with this baseball tournament. Mike, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks. And since we're representing the Cape Cod League today, I got my coffee cup here for down here today in Sandwich.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's some great seeds in the up and coming state tournament. Division 1, Taunton, which was back-to-back state champs, they're seeded number 6. Franklin, which was the runner-up for the last 2 years, are actually at number 15 in Division 1. But BC High, interestingly enough, they were back-to-back state titleists in 2008 and 2009. So you're going back 16 years ago to when they had their first run. St. John's had a state championship back in 2017. That was one of 3 in all-time at St. John's. Prior to 2017, they won the 1976 championship. They had a pitcher back then by the name of Ron Darling, who with the state
I think I've heard of him.
And then again in 1952. So you talk about a baseball tradition. St. John's of Shrewsbury certainly has it. The number 3, Zavarian, won a state title in this decade back in 2021, and they also had championships in 2012 and 2004. And then rounding them out, Braintree is a 5-time former state champ, winning in 2016 and 2015, as well as back in the 80s and 70s. And then we did throw in Leominster was a 2014 state champion. So all 5 teams have won within the last 15 years state championships. In Division 2, Walpole, of course, the number 1 seed, and they won a state. Actually, they were a state finalist only one time back in 2005, losing to West Springfield that year. Plymouth North won the state championship back in 2008. They're a 4-time state finalist. And Westfield, they won a state title too, back in 1967. So when Yaz and Jim Longborg were experiencing the impossible dream, Westfield was doing it on their own back in 1967 with a state champion. And the number 4 Milford team actually won a state title back in 1990. Milford's always had a very strong program. Defending champ Milton, who had won back-to-back titles, is actually the number 5 seed. So they've been there before. They've had the experience, and they beat King Philip both years. Of course, King Philip has moved up this year to Division 1, where they're the number 21 seed there. We heard from the boys over at Oakmont, winning their first ever state title last year. Shout out to my old friend Tim Cowett, who's the coach over there. And Oakmont defeated Medfield last year for the state championship 12-inning game. Medfield is not even in the tournament this year, but teams like St. Mary's of Lynn, which won a state title in 2019, and then a couple of teams that have never been in the state finals before, rounding out the top 5, and that would be number 3 Hanover, number 4 Apponequet, and number 5 Blackstone Valley Tech, all in their, at least if they were to make it to the state finals, it would be their maiden voyage there in Division 3. The Division '94 number one team is Linfield. You'd have to go back to 1961 for the last time they won a state championship. St. Mary's of Lynn, of course, 2019 champion. The number 3 team is Hanover, and the number 4 team, Apponequet, never been in the state finals before. And then, I'm sorry, I think I'm backing up a little bit here. The number 2 seed in Division 4 is Uxbridge, winning a state title in 1994. The number 3 team, Clinton, won a state title the year before Uxbridge in 1993. And then, of course, the number 4 team, Seekonk, were our state champs last year in Division 4. And they also went to the state finals in 2022, losing to Manchester, Essex. Finally, in Division 5, Georgetown is the number 1 seed. They won a state title in 2012. Hopedale, number 2 seed. Their only state championship came in 1968, but they actually went to the finals 2 years ago, losing there to Mount Greylock. The number 3 seed is Boston English, who has never been in a state final before. Number 4, Pioneer Valley, were state finalists in 2000 and 2011, but never winning one. And then Carver, the last seed, number 5 seed, was a 1999 state finalist. So that kind of rounds things out. Bourne, last year's state champion in Division 5, is actually the number 23 seed. But, you know, Bourne won the state title this year in basketball, so, you know, it could be a team full of strong athletes. You never know what can happen there. But that basically rounds out our 5 divisions in baseball.
Great, thanks, Mike. It sounds like we've got, you know, some teams with a little bit more history than others, some looking to do it for the first time. It's part of the excitement of the postseason.
Absolutely, and we have to give Mike credit for all this information. We've been very fortunate to be able to work with Mike, and Mike has also, I know Pete and I have reached out to him during the various tournaments. He answers our emails with questions, made us look like we knew what we were talking about. So great job as always, Mike. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm still fooling them all, yeah.
Well, we'll be back in touch with Mike in a little bit, but for now we're going to turn it over and speak with the Greenfield softball team, who actually won a Western Mass title yesterday. Jay, I'll let you take it away on that one.
All right. Do we have folks here from Greenfield?
So unfortunately, you got the old man AD. Our camera is broken. Our team was here, and they have practice. So I'll try to answer as many questions as I possibly can for you.
No problem, Mike. We understand.
You can feel free to just make it up as you go along if you want. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thank the young ladies for joining us. Kind of, and hopefully they have a good practice.
Well, I gave them the link, so maybe they'll be at practice and getting on the phone. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Now, Greenfield, your softball team is the top seed in Division 5. You have won titles in 2022, 2023. How, in talking to the players and talking to the coaches, I know you're the top seed. Do you feel comfortable about another successful run in the tournament?
Yeah, I think you do. I think any time that you have a number 1 seed, you got a target on your back, so everybody's coming for you. I think the girls have, the senior leadership that you had here when they were supposed to be here, Carly and Ainsley, have been playing since they were freshmen, been through this whole thing. And our pitcher, Mackenzie, has been since an 8th grader too. So the pressure of that, I really think they brush it off their shoulders, and I think they're great role models for the younger kids. It's a real pleasure to be around these kids because they're very positive, they're humble, and they work real hard to get where they're at.
Talk a little bit about, if you will, some of your competition, which are rivals. First of all, it's very impressive that over the last 3 years you've kind of been able to not move ahead of Turner Falls because they have such a rich softball history, but you're up there competing with them, and on occasion you're beating them. Talk about what those rivalries are like.
So it's been a great rivalry for Greenfield Turners. ever since my grandfather was at high school here, especially in football. But in softball, even more so now. Coach Mullins over at Turners Falls was phenomenal. Been there over 40 years. He's created a great program. They've had some number of issues over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, but they always turn out a great pitcher. Maddie Lamatanian is one of the better pitchers in Division 5. So I think our kids are emulating what that program is about. They want to be like that. They want to. They strive to be a state champion, and I think that watching the way Turners did and how Coach Mullins did it really was absorbed by our kids to learn how to get there.
Another school that you have is Franklin Tech. What do you know about them? Any kind of like what they have for pitching? We all know softball, how key a pitcher is to a successful softball team. What about Franklin Tech that you're aware of?
They're a very good team. Again, I'm very close to all these coaches and ADs around here. So, Joe Gamache, who's the coach and AD over at Franklin Tech, has built a great program. His daughter is the catcher on that team. And, I think the 3 teams we're mentioning here today, Franklin Tech, Greenfield, and Turners, have 3 of the best pitchers in the Division 5 tournament. And you can go as far as counting Hampshire in Division 4, Westfield in Division 3. Those guys have some really, really good pitching too. So we're pretty proud of the Western Mass tradition of having some great pitching out here. I listened to the gentleman from I believe it was the Herald or the Globe. I didn't hear any team called west of 495. And I think with what we're doing and what we're putting out there for softball, it's we're kind of making a point of what we're all about on this side of the road. So, but for getting back to Franklin Tech, great pitching, great hitting, real well coached, and it's nice to be able to see our team's success out here.
That's awesome. That's great to hear, and it's great to hear the success you're having out there in Western Mass. I will brag. I was lucky enough to umpire 2 state finals. Both times Turner Falls were in them, and of course they won both of them. So a long time outstanding softball program from Western Mass, and it's good to see that tradition continue.
Well, I appreciate that. It's Gary's a good man. He's got some good assistants. He's been at it for a long time, and respect the heck out of him. And we're trying to emulate what they do, and we're doing pretty well ourselves right now.
Mike, a quick question for you. You mentioned Mackenzie Pollen earlier and the fact that she's been pitching since the 8th grade. How have you seen her grow into that role and become more comfortable with such a leadership position?
It's funny that Mackenzie just very humble. She strikes a person out, grabs a rosin bag, runs off the field. And that's great to see. She's got a lot of fire inside her body, and it helps to have, I think, one of the better catchers around, Ainsley Flynn. Mm-hmm. I wish you had a chance to talk with her because, the 2 kids we had in here, Carly Blanchard and Ainsley Flynn, are 2 of the best, humble, and they keep everybody grounded. And I think Mackenzie, around them, sometimes you get a little bit of, I don't like to say it, fat and happy with Mackenzie pitching, and sometimes you take a little nap on second base or shortstop or whatever because she's mowing things down. But she keeps them on their toes, and she's a competitor. The fire in her is great, and we got another year of her, so it's awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for joining us.
Well, I appreciate you, and I wish I could have got the girls on, and I wish we had better cameras. We're, end of the year. We don't have a lot of money to buy these cameras nowadays. But it worked the other day with my Zoom meeting, but I apologize, and I wish you the best of luck.
No problem at all, Mike. Good luck with the postseason.
Thank you. I'm off to it right now. Western Mass Class A, Class B.
Yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of Western Mass Class A, Class B, when we look at the softball reporters that we're about to have tune in, we have Mass Live's Kenny Minogue, who is sitting at those games right now, along with the Lynn Items, Mark Abuyan. Kenny, I'll start with you because you've had a front row seat to some of the terrific pitching that's happened in Western Mass so far this season. What are you looking forward to in the postseason with this coverage?
I mean, we're starting it with a D5. I mean, Mackenzie Paulin and Hannah Gilbert from Franklin County Tech, as you've already rightfully said, they are some of the best pitchers in Western Mass and in D5, but you also have some great talent further down, even in the rankings, in D5 itself. You also have Drury ranked 10th with Olivia Perry. She's a great pitcher as well for Drury, and as well further down, and as well right next there in 11th you have Lee. Brianna Lynch has been a great pitcher as well for Lee. They just got to the they made the Class D finals yesterday against Turner's Falls. Played in a great game. And over in Division 4, we also have some great teams coming up from Western Mass. Hampshire softball has been really good coming back this year. They've got a new pitcher as well this year, replacing Joss Meddy, last year's starting pitcher for them, and a really good hitting lineup as well. And at the top of the Division 4 from Western Mass has got to be Pittsfield, featuring some of the best hitting in Western Mass, as well as a great starting pitcher in Olivia Pugh, who's may not be one of the more strikeout heavy pitchers, but definitely gets the outs and is really efficient for Pittsfield.
Terrific. Now, Mark, what have you seen with your softball coverage this season? Who stood out to you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of great teams over here in Eastern Mass. I guess we start with Division 1 in PBD. You know, they're ranked number 5 this year, and for PBD, this is this senior class. They've seen it all. The only thing they're missing is the state championship. As freshmen, they got to the North Finals. They went to the state championship their sophomore year. Final Four last year. So it's a very special class. It's used to winning. Just now they just need to get over that hump. And I think they're primed to do it. They got some. They'll be facing on Sunday the winner of the Attleboro and King Philip Regional, which King Philip Regional, they're the number 24 seed, I believe, and they're 13-9, but they had to forfeit 6 games, which dropped the record a bit. But there's gonna be there's a chance they can meet them if they get past Westford Academy or Weymouth, whoever they play. But they have some very talented players on their roster. Abby Bencourt, she's going to Brown next year. She's a star pitcher, ERA of 1.01, scored over 170 strikeouts this year. But at the plate, she's dangerous too with over, I think she has 8 home runs and over 30 RBIs. Logan Lomasny, another top player for them, is going to Southern New Hampshire to play basketball and softball. She had a home run actually in her last a home run in each of her last 3 games, so she's on quite a tear right now. So there's a very special team, and then over in they got St. Mary's as well down in Division 3, who will play the winner of the Tri-County RVT and Massachusetts RVT. They're another team that are very they're really strong. They're top to bottom of the roster. They've been top 5 all season. Spent a few weeks at number 1. They started off pretty slow. They lost their first 2 games before winning 8 or 9 in a row. Colleen Newberry is a fantastic coach who gets the best out of their players, and they have a great freshman pitcher, Eliza Carino Vieto, who's stepped up big time for them in the circle, and as a freshman shows that poise. But they have great defense. Brooke Maloney in center field, great speed. You got Michaela Walker, Lori Sorial, dangerous in the batter's box. A lot of key players on the team that are, and one thing that we know about St. Mary's, that school knows how to win championships. I believe it's 17 straight years with at least one team winning championships. So a lot of talent over here that are looking to make a name for themselves.
Excellent. Now, Kenny, you mentioned quite a few pitchers. Can you give me one hitter that we need to keep an eye on out of Western Mass heading into the postseason?
Well, that would have to be McDonald from Pittsfield. She has been one of the best hitters in Western Mass. You also have to look at Brooke Bishop over in Drury, down in D5. She's over 30 hits this season. And elsewhere in D4, I think you should also look at Skylar Steele from Frontier, ranked 13th in D4. I think they have a good chance to do well in D4, especially if the bats can get going. I mean, Skylar Steele, despite being a freshman, she's also got over 30 hits on the season and leads the team in RBIs. I mean, she's been a machine throughout the whole season.
Great. Well, Kenny, I know you have a softball doubleheader of Western Mass Championships to cover. Mark, I know you're heading out to some boys volleyball in a bit. Thank you both so much for joining us. Make sure you're following Kenny over at Mass Live and Mark at the Lynn item. Thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Another great postseason that we're looking at, and a lot of talented teams. Mike, we've heard a little bit about the history so far. Why don't you fill us in on the rest?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of history, obviously, with softball in the state. And, when talking state, you're talking the whole state from as far east as the Cape, all the way out to Western Mass, which has certainly had its great deal of success. In Division I, Wachusett Regional is the #1 seed, and they were state champs back in 2019 and also made it to the state finals 3 of those next 5 years in 2017, 18, and 21. Also in Division I, the #2 seed is Central Catholic out of Lawrence, last year's state finalist. They made it to the final game and lost to Division I powerhouse Taunton. Now, what can you say about Taunton? They've been an 8-time state champion. They've won it in 21, 22, 23, and then also back in 2018. Throughout this, I guess you could say, century, Taunton has been really one of the strongest teams, at least in Division I. The Division IV team, the #4 seed in Division I, Lincoln Sudbury, has never been to a state final, but has had a good run of success. And then rounding it out at #5, as was mentioned, Peabody, a number 5 seed, was a state finalist back in 2022. The #1 seed in Division I is Silver Lake, and they were at last at a state championship game back in 2015. They lost that year, but just the same, they were, have had a strong program. #2 is Tewksbury, 3-time state finalist and defending 2-time state finalist. They went to the state finals both in 22 and 23, losing in 22 to Westfield and losing last year to Burlington. Burlington, by the way, last year's state champ, is seated at #27 this year in Division II, while Tewksbury has the #2 seed. So keep an eye on them. The #3 seed Walpole has never been to a state final, while Westfield, another one of those teams from out in the West, was the 2022 state champion and also made it to the state finals back in 2003. Over in Division III, Dighton Rehoboth, kind of a newcomer to the state final scene. They lost in 2021 and 2006. Their last state championship came back in 1990. Dighton Rehoboth moved down from Division II to Division III. The #2 seed is Apponequet, which had a great run of success back in the 80s and 90s and last won a state championship back in 1999. The #3 seed is Hudson from out in Central Mass. They were state champions in 2019. And rounding out the top 4, Norton, 2006 state champion and a 2023 finalist. They lost last year to Middleborough in the Division III championship game. And as was mentioned, St. Mary's of Lynn, the #5 seed, had a great run of success and actually won back-to-back state championships back in 2009 and 2010. In Division I, Joseph Case, defending state champions, an 8-time state finalist and a 5-time state champion. So Case, in back-to-back years, lost the state final back in 2022 and then won last year, beat Hampshire Regional from out west in the championship game 7-2. Tingsboro, the 2021 state champ, is our number 2 seed, while Pittsfield and Western Mass team never won a state title, but were state finalists in both 1999 and 1997. Advanced Math and Science, the number 4 seed, never a state final, never appeared in the state final, and finally rounding it out, the number 5 seed Abington won a state title back in 2018. And finally, in Division 5, boy, it's a dogfight between both Greenfield and Turner's Falls out there. Greenfield, 2-time defending state champion in both 2022 and 23. They are of course, number 1 seed. Number 2 seed, what can you say about Turner's Falls? 19-time state finalists. I'll repeat that. Yeah. 19-time state finalists. Greenfield won a total of 10 Turner's Falls won a total of 10 state championships. It's the obviously all-time record for softball teams in the state. They were state champs back in 2021, 2017, 2016, 15, 12, 11. You get the idea. The number 3 seed is Hopedale. They were a 2-time state finalist, last making it to the big dance in 1994. And the number 4 seed, Georgetown, has never been to a state final, nor has the number 5 seed, Franklin County Tech. So interesting, what's going to be happening in all of those different seeds. There are some teams that are relatively new to the state finals, and quite a few that have had some great runs of success. So, you're going to play the games on the diamond. Remains to be seen what happens in softball.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike. Well, Jay, Pete, we've been through tennis, rugby, boys volleyball, baseball, and softball. We have one sport left, and that one's lacrosse.
Yeah, lacrosse is interesting, Meredith. So many teams involved. I did a calculation. I have over 300 teams are in the big dance in lacrosse. It's almost split 50-50 boys and girls, a little more on the boys' side than girls, but right around 150 each, so it's all up for grabs. You know how many athletes that's involved with? There's somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 athletes just in lacrosse, and that's just tremendous.
Definitely. Well, I think we've got one of those, some of those terrific athletes on the line for us now.
Do we have Duxbury on the line with us here today? Duxbury boys lacrosse?
Yes, we're right here.
Okay, hi fellas, can you identify yourselves, please?
So I'm Colin Hewlett. And I'm Braden Hewlett.
Okay, great. Are you related?
Yes, we're twin brothers.
Yeah, very nice. Appreciate those smiling faces. And tell me, when was your last game this year heading into postseason play? Have you had a little bit of a layoff?
Yes, we had this week off. Our last game was against Medfield last Saturday.
Okay, and how did you do? They're a pretty good team.
Yeah, they're a good team. We pulled out. We won, I think, 14-9. Yeah, it was close at the beginning, but we pulled away at the end.
Are you worried a little bit about not playing for a week, what it could do to, maybe unsharpen your skills?
Yeah, well, in practice, we go really hard. We really focus on that, and we make sure we work our hardest every day. And sometimes, that's better than games because we get some rest as well. Yeah, even without games, we practice pretty much every single day. So we will be ready for whatever the teams throw at us.
Yeah, so last year, guys, your team went to the finals and you lost in the finals. Have you had that on your mind that you want to kind of come back strong this year? What has that been like?
Definitely. We played Reading earlier in the season, and that was kind of a revenge game for us. And we showed it. We pulled away. And they're on our side of the bracket again, so hopefully we can do the same. Yeah, it really just lights a fire under us. We always that's always in the back of our heads, so it really pushes us to be better.
Yeah, you're top 4 in your bracket in Division 2. Hingham, Longmeadow from Western Mass, and Marshfield. Have you had any experience with any of those strong teams?
Yeah, we've actually played all of them. Hingham was a really close game. We beat them in OT. Longmeadow we beat by a couple goals, and then Marshfield was an early season loss.
Yeah, that's great. How would you describe the strength of your team?
Of our team, it's really strong. We have a lot of good seniors, a lot of returners coming back from the last year's loss. So we're all really fired up for this postseason.
Yeah, we have a lot of depth this year, especially offense, defense, even goalie. We have a lot of players.
Yeah, that's great. What is a game day like for you? What is your routine like when you'll be playing your first game? I believe you'll be playing the winner of Masconomet versus Beverly on that particular day. What will your game day be like?
Definitely depends on the player, but for me, I always sleep in, make sure I'm well rested, get some good meals in, and just get ready before the game with my teammates.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much the same. I don't sleep in as late as him, but I definitely get some good meals in, listen to a lot of music, and get ready.
Boys lacrosse is really growing. What's the attraction of the sport for both of you?
Honestly, I just love playing it. I started playing with my friends, and it's just been awesome. I've always had it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that team atmosphere that we really look for. Playing, growing up, I always played hockey and lacrosse, and those were my two main sports. And, I just really like how, the teams come together and, how hard everyone works.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you have an 18-1 record, as far as I know, coming in. And so one last question for you, gentlemen, is if you had a message to a youngster who might be thinking of picking up a lacrosse stick, what would be the profile of somebody who would be really good at lacrosse, and what would your message for them be for taking up the great game?
Honestly, I don't think there's a profile for a great lacrosse player. Anyone can become a great lacrosse player. You just got to work hard and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing that you can do is just work hard and keep at it. There's going to be times where you're not doing well and you're in a slump, but you just got to keep working, keep hitting the wall and practicing.
Well, that's great. And try not to duck when the ball's coming at you over 95 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, fellas, thanks a lot for joining us. Great background there in your set, in your picture. Hope you enjoy the weather and your tournament play, and good luck to Duxbury in Division II boys lacrosse.
Thank you for having us.
Okay. It looks like outstanding young men there, Meredith.
Yes, it does. And now we'll talk a little bit more about lacrosse with the Boston Herald's Brendan Connolly and with Mass Live's Gage Nutter. Brendan, we'll check in with you first. Who's impressed you this season?
Well, there's been so much great play over the course of the year. I think one of the teams that really stuck out to me and a lot of the pundits was St. John's Prep to start. And that was a team that I picked to possibly win the Division I title this year. They've lived up to expectations. Their only two losses were to New England regional rivals, Staples, Connecticut, LaSalle Academy in Rhode Island. Two difficult losses, but I think they're going to be prepared to go up and try and four-peat here. Now, as for some of the other teams, we just spoke with one. Division II, Duxbury is one of my favorites this year, and I've had the opportunity to cover a few of their games, luckily, this year. They should go on a deep run, but they will have some competition from the likes of the Patriot League, I would say, right off the gate.
Excellent. Now, Gage, I know we've had an interesting situation in Western Mass with one of the teams actually leaving the Pioneer Valley Interscholastic Athletic Conference so that it could build a deeper schedule. Can you talk about the boys and girls lacrosse teams out of Longmeadow?
Yeah, when it comes to Longmeadow, like you mentioned, boys and girls both going independent this year, leaving the PVIAC, and with that, not competing in the Western Mass tournament that just wrapped up a few days ago. When it comes to, I guess, just starting with the boys and Longmeadow, that independent schedule has definitely helped them. I know coming into this postseason, they were able to bump up one more spot with their seed. But the stuff that you don't see, whether it be on the record or with the seed, is every single game, and head coach Keith Campbell for the boys has talked about this every time post-game that I've seen him after a game, is that they had a postseason game basically twice a week during the regular season. They were able to go and play Billerica on the road earlier in the regular season. I think it was at Bentley. It was a packed crowd. That was the team that they beat in the state championship just a couple of years ago. And that was a very important game for them because coming into this year, a lot of freshmen have really needed to step up for the Lancers, and those kids that were maybe playing like freshmen earlier in the regular season, now here in the postseason, I mean, they're playing like juniors and seniors now. And then going on to the girls side of things with Coach Dudek and everybody else over there, Sam Goodrich leading the attack for Longmeadow, really the same boat. And I wrote a story coming into this season about the perspectives of the Longmeadow boys program and the Longmeadow girls program and going independent. And with the Longmeadow girls, I mean, they've even looked outside of Massachusetts. They've played teams from New York during this regular season. And I know it's a different sport and different season, but we talk about Springfield Central football, looking outside. With this entirely new system that we have within these last few years, teams have really been motivated to challenge themselves if they have the means or if they have the want to do it. And both of the Longmeadow boys and girls programs have done that this regular season, and it's only helped them not only become better and prepare for the postseason, but it's also helped them when it comes to their seeding.
Brendan, looking back at the teams that you've been covering, could you give us a couple of boys and a couple of girls that we should keep our eye on this postseason?
Sure. In addition to the ones I just mentioned, you have to look at the Patriot League right out of the gate. The Patriot League is one of the hardest leagues when it comes to the sport of lacrosse, and it's right based out of the South Shore. Division II, it's very heavy. Marshfield, Hingham, Duxbury, all are in there. Then you look at Division III, you got to watch out for teams like Scituate that can be competing for Division I titles as well, or Division III titles, I should say. That's going to be one of the tough ones. On the girls' side, Notre Dame Academy has emerged as the team best out of Division II, and they might be the best in the state based on MIAA rating. Like, if you just look at what these teams have done over the course of the season and compare them, Notre Dame Academy has been far and away the number one team overall, just based on their strength of schedule. I think they could easily get to a title, but they're going to have some competition this year, unlike past years. I think we're going to be dealing with Westwood here, a couple of other teams in that field. There's some sleepers out there in Division II for the girls, but overall, I think those are some of the teams you can watch for. As for the North Shore, a couple of teams on both sides that come to mind: Newburyport. Newburyport has a good boys and girls program. They should succeed. Just out of the Eastern Mass field, we could look at Billerica, as mentioned earlier here. There's a lot of good teams over in this region of the woods here, and I'm just waiting to see if there's a sleeper out there or some kind of a team that'll catch us by surprise. From the Western Mass side of things, for the boys, maybe one that could surprise everyone, I think, is Lennox. Lennox has a very good record. They could surprise a few. They could go on a run. We'll see. They have to get lucky, though, because their seeding doesn't help them at number 30.
Absolutely. Gage, we'll go back to you a little bit on Western Mass. Aside from Longmeadow, what have you seen from Lennox? What have you seen from some of the other programs as well that could compete throughout the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Lennox, I know they had a difficult game against Hoosick Valley in their sectional championship game. But like Brendan said, I mean, they've been one of the stronger programs out in the Berkshires in recent years, so I don't think they'll have any trouble reloading and then getting ready for this push here in the state tournament. But when it comes to, I guess, just starting with the boys out in Western Mass, the story of the Westfield boys lacrosse program this year has been really interesting to watch. Had their best regular season in who knows how long. I know they had the best start to their regular season in over 10 years this year. Only regular season loss came against Longmeadow. They beat Minnechaug twice during the regular season. Will be interesting to see how they bounce back going into the state postseason, since they did just lose to Minnechaug on their third meeting in the Class A championship just a few days ago. So it did take some wind out of their sails, but they do have a home game. I think they are the 9th seed in Division II, so they will have that home game. So I'll have my eye on that to see how things progress with them. When it comes to Minnechaug, they've been all over the place on the boys' side, just up and down during the year. I think at one point they had over half a dozen starters missing because of illness or injury or other things. They had 2 separate 4-game losing streaks, but within the last few weeks, it really seems like they've figured it out a little bit. Super 7 selection Jackson DeRosa has been amazing. I think he accounted for 10 total points in the championship game. I think it was 3 goals, 7 assists. So he has been awesome. Zach Kozub, been a great goalie for Minichog. Meredith, we're very familiar with the Kozubs. I think he's one of maybe 12 Kozubs now that I've
They
covered
play every
in my
sport.
time in Western Mass.
Every sport.
Yeah, every single sport. There's probably 12 more coming. That's just the way it is. But he, just like his brother, is very athletic, very talented, very fun to watch. Funny kid as well. So they got personality, they got talent. They got wind in their sails now after winning this Class A championship that was left wide open with Longmeadow on the boys' side leaving the PBIAC. And so that was another thing to watch during this year was, okay, with Longmeadow gone, and in recent years, the Western Mass Championships for boys and girls basically being the Longmeadow and Minichog Invitational, who was going to take that crown? And on the boys' side, like I said, Minichog able to take care of Westfield in a great game. And then I saw the East Longmeadow girls beats West Springfield on the girls' side. So that's been really interesting to watch. But to touch on the girls just a little bit, speaking of East Longmeadow, really the whole supernova in Western Mass of this entire girls lacrosse season was East Longmeadow beating Longmeadow. First time Longmeadow had lost to a Western Mass opponent in 12 years, maybe. I mean, surely over a decade. It was packed stands. And so everybody was really excited for that rematch that came late in the regular season as well. But Longmeadow able to get some revenge and beat East Longmeadow. And with that win, I mean, I don't know what the mathematics ended up being, but with that win, Longmeadow was able to jump up one spot ahead of East Longmeadow in the girls' power rankings. And so Longmeadow was able to get a bye here in the state postseason, and East Longmeadow was not able to. So that matchup definitely, as you imagine, mathematically had really big implications here on the seeding. But when it comes to East Longmeadow, I mean, just going down the list, Megan Morneau committed to Denver in that attacking side of the field. You got Kennedy Marino who's going to UMass. So many great players. I remember I was texting a coach this preseason trying to figure out, what's the landscape looking like here in Western Massachusetts when it comes to girls lacrosse? Who's back? Who should people know about? And this coach texted me like, looking for Super 7 nominations. Just put down everybody from East Longmeadow. It's just all be East Longmeadow this year. Just have it be all the EL girls. And so that East Longmeadow team went to the state semifinals last year. Basically, everybody is back. Selfishly, Meredith, for you and I mean, there's a chance. I mean, who knows? And East Longmeadow and Longmeadow are on opposite sides of the bracket. They somehow get to the state championship. I think all of Hampden County is probably going to be there, but we're not going to look too far ahead.
Nothing wrong with a good rivalry game in the postseason, Gage.
Nothing wrong with that at all. And so, yeah, when it comes to the programs, it's been a lot of great teams have really risen to the top this year, and a lot of great players helping lead the way too.
Now, Brendan, I have one last question for you. We were hoping to have Notre Dame on the show, but unfortunately, I don't think they were able to make it. I know you've covered them a bit. Can you tell us more about the players that stand out and what we can expect from them as they go through the postseason?
This is a team that is stacked from the get-go. I think they have a couple of college commits. One is Jane Hilsebeck. One is Aubrey McMahon. They have got such good scoring ability that this team can compete with just about anyone that comes in front of them. And as Gage mentioned, East Longmeadow could be one of them. Top 6 seed. I think they could go on a run. But do they have a chance to knock off this team? It's going to be very hard. This team has just really gone leaps and bounds beyond all expectations, which was really hard to believe because they already had such high expectations coming into the season. So this small prep school out of Hingham has a real chance to probably go on like a dominant run that we haven't seen before. Like this is not a normal Division II team we're talking about here. They're going to be competing for a championship, I think, again, and we will likely see them in the final. Question is, could we see a team catch fire and knock them off at the right time?
It's the best part of the postseason. Well, Gage Nutter with Mass Live, Brendan Connolly with the Boston Herald, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
The Brendan brought up, and we talked about the Notre Dame Academy. They have had such a good program, and granted, they're in Division II, but as Brendan said, they could be the best team in the state. They're incredible. They'll have some serious competition going forward, but like a team like Westwood, something like that, but they are so dominant. They're so athletic. The other thing that stands out to me, in talking to Gage and Brendan, the number of athletes, really, really good student athletes, Division I commits, not just in lacrosse, baseball, all our spring sports. We are so fortunate, like Dr. Baldwin said at the beginning, to have such a tremendous pool of student athletes.
Absolutely.
How they do it, combining the athletics with the academics, is a mystery to me.
I did none.
But they do it, and congratulations to them. Just one note, strength of schedule for Notre Dame, 9.1, one of the highest opponent ratings you can get.
Yep.
And also Longmeadow, on the girls' side, 7.8.
Yeah.
Terrific schedule. That's what builds up their strength for the postseason.
Right.
Yeah, it's unfortunately we couldn't get the Notre Dame girls on the show today, but it'll be exciting to watch what they can do in the postseason. I'm sure we'll be hearing a ton about them over the next month.
Absolutely.
Okay, one last time, Mike, what information do you have for us about lacrosse?
Well, I'll tell you that there are a lot of old standbys, I guess you could say, that made it into the top seeds this year. Of course, Division I St. John's Prep going for the four-peat this year. They won the state title back in 2021, 22, and 23. Lincoln Sudbury is a 7-time state champion, actually an 11-time state finalist. Lincoln Sudbury won it back in 2015, 16, 17, and 19. Also rounding out the top 4 teams in Division III, Acton Boxborough, a 2014 state champion. And number 4 team is BC High, which won the state championship in 2018. And if you throw in number 5 Xaverian, which won it in 2013, you've got some dominance for the last, I'd say, 10 or 12 years in Division I. Division II, our buddies that were on today from Duxbury, they are an 8-time state championship program, last winning it back in 2012, 2011, 2009. So the twin boys that were on today were probably still in elementary school when Duxbury was winning those titles back then, but a great long tradition. The number 2 Hingham team were state champs back in 2011. And then at number 3, it was already alluded to, but what can you say about Longmeadow? Get this, Longmeadow has been to a state championship game 38 times in state history. They won the very first one back in 1970, the first year we had a state championship game. They are a 20-time state champ. So, there are certain programs in this state that, have had dominance. Barnstable volleyball and Gardner girls swimming that have won, multiple championships, and Longmeadow boys lacrosse is right there with themselves. Number 4 Marshfield has never been to a state final before, but be interested to see what happens there. Reading, last year's state champion in Division II, is the number 8 seed right now and playing a strong schedule, obviously. In Division III for the boys, Medfield is a 7-time state champion, winning back-to-back-to-back back in 2014, 15, and 16. Situate, the number 2 seed, won state championships in 2008, 2009. And then the number 3 seed is Falmouth, and they were state finalists last year, losing to Norwell. Norwell now is down in Division 4. And Newburyport, actually the next 4 seeds there, Newburyport, Nauset, Burlington, and Neshoba, 4 through 7 respectively, have never been to a state final. So any of those teams could catch fire and who knows, start something brand new for their program. Down in Division 4, Nantucket, the number 1 seed, never been to a state final. The number 2 seed is Norwell, and they were back-to-back state champs in Division 3 back in 2022 and 23. The number 3 team is Sandwich, which were state finalists the last 2 years in Division 4, losing both times, but this could be their time. Number 4, Linfield, has never been to a state final, while Cohasset is the defending champ. They're the number 5 seed, and they are a 6-time state champion and a 10-time state finalist for boys lacrosse. On the girls' side, we'll just flip over. The number 1 seed is Central Catholic, which will, if they make it to the state finals, will make it for the very first time. The number 2 team is Wellesley. They last won a state championship back in 2018. Number 3 is Lincoln Sudbury, and number 4 Concord Carlisle, and they were state champions back during the 1980s. Lincoln Sudbury is now the number 3 seed. They lost last year in the state final game to Westford in Division 1, because Westwood is now in Division 2. Division 2, the number 1 seed, as was mentioned earlier, Notre Dame of Hingham, and they were state champions both last year and the year before in 2022 and 2023, and have had a great run of success out there in Hingham. The number 2 team is Walpole, and they were state finalists in 2016, 17, and 18. Never won a state title, but may be poised for that this year if they could ever have a chance to overcome a team as strong as Notre Dame. The number 3 team is Reading, had never been to a state final, whereas Hingham, the number 4 team, were state champions way back in 1986 and also in 2001. And the number 5 team, as we mentioned, is Long Meadow, a 7-time state champion, most recently in 2015. And they, like their brothers on the other side, they have been to a state final 22 times in their long history. Division 3, Medfield, the 2022 state champs, are the number 1 seed in Division 3. They last won a state championship in 2012. The number 2 team, Newburyport, were state champs last year. They beat Norwell in the state title game. Norwell is now in Division 4, the number 7 seed. Number 3, Hanover in Division 3, have never won a state title, while Wayland, the number 4 team, is a 4-time state champ, most recently winning one back in 1991. And finally, in Division 4, Weston is the number 1 seed. They're a 4-time state finalist, last winning a state championship back in 1990. The number 2 team, Nantucket, has never been to a state final before. And number 3, Cohasset, won state titles in 2017 and 2019. And the number 4 team, Ipswich, made it to the state finals last year, but they lost to Dover Sherburne in the final game. Dover Sherburne now in Division 3, and they're the number 13 seed there. And finally, rounding out the top 5, Sandwich has not been to a state championship game, but they're the number 5 seed. And just one more team of note, Norwell has had a great run over the course of their years. They were an 8-time state champion, and Norwell is in Division 7. I'm sorry, is the number 7 seed there. So girls lacrosse is going to be very exciting, as our 2 sports writers from the East and the West talked about. And again, should be a great tournament for all teams, from baseball and softball to rugby and volleyball and on down through. And best of luck to all of the teams as they make some history for me to keep it going in the near future.
Well, Mike, as always, you're just a font of knowledge for everything that we need for the show. We thank you for all of your help, both with this show and in general as reporters. It's great to know that you have all of this terrific information on hand for us.
Well, thank you for all the work that you folks do, too. It's great working with you and being a part of this, and hope to continue to do this moving forward.
Absolutely.
I find it so interesting listening to Mike talk, and you hear the schools, but every year we hear a lot of the same schools, starting with Long Meadow. They're always up there. Mm-hmm. It amazes me how a lot of these high schools are able to keep the winning and the success of a program going. As we all know, it is brutally difficult in high school to be able to do that. I just think it's a testament to all of the student athletes and the athletic directors, coaches. I think it's great and it's fun to see.
It almost makes it even more remarkable when you see those teams who are entering the state tournament, or the state finals rather, potentially for the first time winning their first state finals when they're going up against these long-standing tradition-based teams.
Well, you see that, and I go back because I know a little bit more about it, to the softball, watching some of the schools like Millis going to a first time up against Turner Falls many years ago, who, as Mike said, it seemed like they had been there about 70 straight years. So it is fun to see that, and I think it's a great opportunity for the young people.
I'm just looking forward to hearing about all of the dinner conversations that will take place after somebody comes out and cracks a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 7th inning to win a softball game, or gets that winning goal in lacrosse, or spikes the ball and does great in volleyball. These are tremendous memories about to unfold here in the spring season.
And I have to go back to the show the other day, the volleyball. I have to give a shout out to the Needham boys volleyball team and their coach Dave Powell, who is, Bragg, a good friend of mine. I've known him since he was 17 years old. He is a tremendous coach. He is an advocate for these kids. He was big during COVID, getting the spring tournament off and everything. And again, he's got another tremendous year, another great program. We'll probably have a very good shot of having another plaque on his mantelpiece. So.
Absolutely. Well, that about does it for our show. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And I especially want to thank you, Jay and Pete, for hosting us here at this beautiful studio. Again, Franklin TV has always been a great partner for us this past year, and we're thrilled to be here.
I think we're the ones who say thank you. We're very honored to be a part of this, to work with people like you, Gage, all the different reporters we talked today, Mike Richards, and more importantly, I think working with the folks from the MIAA. When we first presented this idea, Pete and I have been talking about doing this as long as Pete and I have known each other. And we, with your help, Meredith, we were able to kind of push it forward and get it over that line, and started doing it this year. And we're so looking forward to, we don't want this season to end, but when it does, we start getting ready right away for the fall season.
Absolutely. We'll be back here in the fall.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Make sure you're checking in with your local media outlets for dates and times of games, for recaps of what's been going on. And good luck to all of the athletes. It'll be a remarkable next couple of weeks.
And we'll see if she can get off to a strong start tonight. A good atmosphere for this one, as the first pitch